My name is Jonathan Gillum.
And this is The Experts. This is Jonathan Gillum, and this is The Experts on Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube. And we are live. I'm almost always live. And as you might have seen earlier, I was on Newsmax, and it's so much different being on set with Newsmax because I got Jesse doing my sound. I got all the guys in the production booth, guys and girls in the production booth. I got Michael producing the show. I got Bill Tucker on there with me. Rita Cosby to talk with in the production room over there. I mean, it just the whole experience there compared to what I'm doing here, where I'm starting this show, producing the show, doing all the tech, doing all the sound. It's a very interesting difference, folks. But nonetheless, what makes it all easy is because I don't spend anything. I just tell the truth. So that's what we're going to do. We are going to lay down some truth bombs starting right now. So let me get a drink of coffee because it's going to be a good show. And I will say, I don't normally recommend that we do this because I don't like to cross-pollinize my public page and the Friends of Jonathan T. Gillum page. I like to keep those separate. I don't run the Friends of Jonathan T. Gillum. That's by and large Jim, Roxanne, Stephanie, Remo. Who else am I forgetting? There's a bunch of people have stuff to say and are moderators in there, but I let them do that. However, I will say that if you want to share this show right now on that page, Jim DeLong, if you're watching, go right ahead. Just one person. We don't need everybody doing it. Just share it with that page. And this will be my, even though I already said all this stuff today on Newsmax, this will be my official statements on what I think about Charlotte, about what I think about the president's comments, what I think about the mainstream media, and what, by and large, and I'm not going to pull any punches today, folks, what I think about the two groups that were, or three groups, or four groups, whatever many groups there were up there, what I think about the city and what they're doing, and what I think about the guy who ran the girl over, and what I think about her. I'm not going to pull any punches. I don't even have their names. I literally haven't even considered their names, these two people that were, the guy that caused the accident and the girl who died, and the 19 people that were injured. If all that stuff was going on, if it had not been going on, probably we'd have two state troopers still alive. I'll tell you, nobody's really been talking about that at all. And I think that probably out of all this is the biggest tragedy. That plus the wool that's been pulled even further over the American citizenry's eyes because of all this. Let's take this systematically, and we'll go step by step. Let me just first say this. Hold on a second here. Let me see what people are saying here. So, first and foremost, again, I let you all make your comments and stuff on the Friends of Jonathan T. Gillum page. I did delete some stuff today and or yesterday, last night. Jared, I think it was stuff that you were posting. I think some other people posted the same videos from some people that were there saying that they were patriots and so on and so forth, and that stuff got posted on the Friends of Jonathan T. Gilliam page. The reason I deleted those videos is, for one, I don't know those people. And we have to be very careful, and you should be very careful. I think this whole incident in Charlotte is a great example. I'm sure there were patriots there, probably on both sides, although I doubt very seriously there are many on the left, because those people are pretty organized. On the right, patriots are not as organized. And so what happens is, if they go to march against something, then I think is a legitimate concern, the fact that leftists in this country are trying to whitewash the history, good or bad. The history should stand. Look, I look at it the same. Well, I'll cover that in a minute. I'll cover that in a minute about whitewashing history. Let me just say this. Let me write this down. So I don't know these people in these groups, and I know what they were saying, and it made sense, okay? However, we have to be very careful who we promote and who we don't promote, because in this fight that's going on now, and then trust me, it is a fight. I say the same thing about what's going on now as I did about a couple of years ago, 3 years ago. I was saying that we were in the middle of World War III already, and we don't even know it. And it's a red-green alliance between Islam and communism, and they're both moving at a drastically fast pace all around the globe. I've been saying that for a long time, but most people don't realize it. I would care to say, and I will go publicly saying, there's going to be a lot of public statements tonight. I do believe that we are in a civil war in this country. I do believe. But I do believe also that this civil war has been brought on by subversive elements that have been brought up and cultivated by communists. I don't think that white supremacists have enough manpower to break this country. I don't think that I think there's enough smart people in this world, in this country, to where white supremacists will never gain a foothold, no matter who they may have in a position of authority somewhere. I don't believe they have the manpower, nor do I believe that the American people would stand for that. I certainly wouldn't. I don't stand with them. I think they're a direct descendants of one of the most evil human beings on the face of the earth that ever existed, and that was Adolf Hitler and his belief system. And quite frankly, to tell you the truth, they're closely related to anybody else who's been a separatist, black separatist, white separatist, anybody that believes in World War II, the Japanese believed that they were above, in a class above everybody else, and they literally thought that other people were subhuman. Look, these people spring up throughout history. Rich people and monarchs always thought that they were a cut above, and it's so on and so forth. So these people have been around for a long, long time. I don't publicly condone any of these people. In fact, I believe they are a national security threat to this country. However, white supremacy is not even close to being the biggest problem in this country when it comes to subversive or separatist or any other type, or supremacist, whatever you want to call them. Communism is by and large the biggest problem that we have in this country. They are the ones that have instigated this entire process of whitewashing our history, of political correctness to the extreme that you can't even have a viewpoint if you go against the left. They have systematically turned our educational system over the past 40, 50 years into an indoctrination system. They have gone after and succeeded in subverting Hollywood, where in the McCarthy days they were going after actors for being communist. Now, whether they know it or not, Hollywood, by and large, is a communist regime. Now, do I think that all these people that are caught up in this, that are far left, that fire people because they support President Trump, or because they're conservative in Hollywood, or in the educational sector. Will get fired for that. Do I believe that all the people that are doing these mischievous and nefarious and detrimental things, do I believe that they all knowingly are communists, like Mayor de Blasio here in New York City? No, I do not. I don't think that they do. But that's because they've been brought up and indoctrinized underneath the stronghold of the educational sector that preaches nonsense like our Constitution is a living, breathing document. They don't preach and teach about the republic. They talk about a democracy. Only part of our country is a democracy. Our state, our governmental system is a republic. They want to talk about stuff like fairness and equality, yet they preach against effort and achievement. They support and defend people like Kim Jong-il. Keith Ellison on the news programs this weekend with one of the weirdest things I've ever seen. His fingernails are as long as a transgender woman. Keith Ellison. I'm watching an interview with him. His fingernails are like this long all the way across. I've never seen a man with long fingernails before, all painted up and done. It was weird. Whatever. Look, you can say to each his own, the guy's a weird guy. He sat up there with his long fingernails talking about how Trump was the problem and that Kim Jong-un was just being goaded into this by President Trump. Keith Ellison, and I did a poll on this. I could put this up, actually. Let me scoot over here, and I'm going to sum all this stuff up for you folks. Keith Ellison, number 2 in the DNC, and individuals like this, they are a tremendous, tremendous problem for this country. Hold on a second. I want to get these. I got a bunch of polls here that I did, and which I'm finding is my new talent here. And I don't know if people in Hollywood, some people in politics, these types of people, I don't know if they actually realize what they're associated with. I do, however, believe that there are a great number of them that do, and a great number of them that just don't care, because they will sell their soul to the devil for whatever it is that they want it, and whatever will bring them more power and money. Here's the poll I did. Let me bring this to the middle. I did this this weekend, and these are great. These are on Twitter. They last about an hour, and then they go away, and then they close. And I want this rhetoric like Keith Ellison was using, where they demean and undermine the president's stance on Kim Jong-un. 89% of the American people that polled, and there was in this particular poll, I think there was close to it was either 900 or 2,000. One of them had 900, the other had 2,000. So it was somewhere around there. Either way, there's more people involved in these polls than there are in the polls with that you see on network news, which they do those in areas where they know that people will vote on what they want and say what they want and follow the narrative. But this is interesting. I'm more interested in the people who say no, not treasonous. Yes, it's true. We are not at war. Technically, we haven't declared war, but they have. And whether it be Islam, which declared war on us, whether it be Kim Jong-un and his father, who declared war on us, I would have to say that these people are skating the lines of treason when they are assisting an enemy that is threatening to throw nuclear weapons on us and our enemies for their own political stance and for their own ideology and for their own power gain. Now, what does that have to do with Charlottesville? Well, again, getting back to this, I don't think a lot of these people realize what they're involved with. They're involved with communism. So they can say what they want about the white supremacists. I think they're dirtbags. I think the white supremacist group should go away. I think that the white supremacists and whatever they want to call themselves should be outlawed. I do believe that it's not protected by First Amendment speech, nor do I think Antifa and the communist movement are protected by First Amendment speech, because they have now organized into action. And when I punch somebody in the face, it is different than if I say, I don't like you, you need to be punched in the face. That's protected by free speech. Punching somebody in the face is not protected by free speech or your right to assemble. Antifa, Black Lives Matter, the KKK, they all stir up emotion. They all come out there to divide. Often there's fights. They spread fear, intimidation, and violence for a political aim. They meet the definition of terrorism. Therefore, they should be classified as terrorist groups, and they should not be given the freedoms allotted to the rest of us under the First Amendment. And so we're all the people out there that are saying, you can't change the First Amendment. I don't want to change the First Amendment. But there's a gray area there where, because the court system and the politicians and the right-wingers that don't want to mess with the First Amendment and the Constitution, I'm just saying the right-wingers, but anybody that doesn't want to mess with the Constitution, they will turn a blind eye to when groups do these things. And the fact is, we don't have to. We don't have to change the Constitution. We should go after these people, and just like if, for say, you were to put on trampy clothes and stand by the side of the road and ask for money for sex, you are a prostitute and you will be arrested for prostitution. Why is it that groups that go out and say we are communist and then beat up people who support the Constitution in an effort to influence their political aim using fear, intimidation, and violence, why are they not called a terrorist group? If you fit the definition, the law must look at you as such. And I look at these groups the same way I look at the politicians in Washington, D.C., like the Hillary Clintons and all the rest of these people that have been nefarious in nature, and the Susan Rices and the Barack Obamas and all these people who have unmasked innocent civilians, people who have stolen information, leaked information. All that is considered espionage. And in a lot of cases, depending on the people that we are at war with, it would be considered treason. But they are judged with a different set of laws or a different set of standards for those laws. And so they never get punished. And so it is the same with these groups like the white supremacists, like Black Lives Matter, like the Antifa, and BAMN up in wherever they are. These groups, and I'll say it again, they are using fear and intimidation and violence for a political aim. That is terrorism. They should be locked up just like the dirty whores that they are in our country, and they should be locked away, and in certain cases, they should be shipped away permanently, or in the cases of like this guy that ran over this girl, the death penalty should come into play, just like it came into play for that girl for making the wrong decision. Now let me cover that for a minute. We'll make a public statement about that. If you go out and you're a patriot, and everybody listening to this that follows me, I want you to consider this and take it seriously. One of the reasons why Washington, D.C., the rally that I spoke at a couple of weeks ago, one of the reasons why I did not get involved with the publicizing and promoting of that event was because I don't know any of those people. And I don't, if you want to ask me to come speak at your event, if I can afford it, I'll do it for free. If somebody wants to sponsor me and pay me, that's great. We'll take up a collection. I'll still try to get there. I've done that more than I've gotten paid. I care about the country that much. But I'm not going to show up to groups that I don't know about. Now, I met a tremendous amount of great people. But I don't, unless it is something like, I don't know, a hospital where there's kids that are sick, or cancer research, I'll promote the heck out of that, or veterans issues. But if I don't know your group, then I'm not going to promote you. But I did show up. I showed up. I did not promote it before. I showed up day of, went there and gave my speech. Everybody I met were patriots. What I would suggest for all those people and the people watching this show is that you are very, very careful of who you support, who you get involved with, the events that you go to, and if you hold an event, you should police it very carefully. And if there is a case where you're having an event and other people like KKK or Nazis or any of these Antifa people, it doesn't matter if you're on the patriot side of conservatism or liberal, if those people show up, just do this. Just go away. Leave, stop the rally, and come back another day. That's all you got to do. And somebody's asking me, how do you know? Well, that's a great question, Lawrence, and I'm glad that you asked that question because this is exactly how you know. Just like when I went to Washington, D.C., when I showed up there and I looked around, there were militia guys there. There were 3%ers. There were Oath Keepers. There were people with, like my Arkansas brethren with no sleeves on and leather and tattoos. And you know what I did? I talked to them. And these people were not about racism or homophobia or any of the stuff that you may see espoused at any of these groups. They weren't about hating the Constitution. They love the Constitution. These are people that showed up because they wanted to support the Constitution and support the president. And so what I did, I talked to them. Because quite often people will milk themselves in and look exactly the same. Well, I got to know these people, and I felt as though these are good people. That's how you tell. You will know if you have a liberal group out and you're protesting something that maybe you have a legitimate complaint about, and all of a sudden people show up with masks over their faces and start breaking stuff, leave. Your stance, your political stance, remember this, folks, this is not a sprint. I remember we used to do this thing in the SEAL teams called a rubber duck, where we put a rigid inflatable boat on the bottom of our helicopter. And sorry, I'm all over the place explaining this. So we put a Zodiac on the bottom of the helicopter. We all get in the helicopter. We sit on the edge with our feet dangling over the edge of the helicopter like this right here. And we fly off into the night. And we get above, about 10 feet above the water at 10 knots. And so the boat is under here, and the straps go up and come into the helicopter. And you have what's called a hearse master. And he's sitting there with his knife, sharp razor knife, waiting for the crewman on the helicopter to tell him go. So he cuts the boat falls into the water, and then he tells people on both sides of the boat, go, 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 and you jump in the water. Now, you all have seen this before. It's not anything that it's called a high-speed event. I think my dog just fell. It's called a high-speed event, but the reality is it's an over-the-horizon thing that we do typically. You're not jumping into a hot LZ like that. So, but guys get all spun up in on that, and so they turn it into something that it's actually not. And when there's not the right conditions, they'll still jump in there, and they end up getting themselves hurt. Let's say the wind's too bad, the helicopter can't get low enough, something happens, they'll still jump in, they end up getting hurt. Well, it's the same thing here, folks. If you go and you're there, and these people, and let me get back, let me just fully explain that. It's when you're doing a rubber duck, it's an over-the-horizon type of insertion. If it's too rough or you can't go in, leave. The fight typically will be there, still be there, and you can come back and figure out another way to insert or do the same insertion on a different day. If you're protesting or if you're out there gathering, it's not a protest. You're in there in support of what's going on. Then, and these people show up, just leave. You don't have to prove a point that day. You can prove a point next week. You can prove a point online. You can prove a point in a year. The fight is still going to be there. But when you go there and you associate yourself with these groups and you continue to march and say, no, we're not with them, the media is not going to report it that way. You are going to be caught up and you are going to be vilified for what you do. If you're, it doesn't matter if you're a patriot. The lying media doesn't care. So the video that we were talking about earlier, that was I took down from the Jonathan T. Gilliam, Friends of Jonathan T. Gilliam page. I don't know those individuals, and the fact that they stayed there when all these other people were showing up to protest, I can't risk having that under my name, because I don't believe in the white supremacy stuff. I don't believe in the anarchy stuff. I don't believe in the communist stuff, and I don't believe that they should be on my page. I don't know if these guys were, but they should have been smarter than staying there when this stuff was going on. Now, I'll say the same thing about the girl that got killed. I don't know her name. I haven't looked her name. I know it was released, and I'll tell you why. I'm not mourning the loss of this girl. And I shouldn't say that completely. Any loss of life, especially young, is tragic, because she could have been educated the right way. But this girl showed up. She has stuff on her Facebook page that was posted by Antifa or Black Lives Matter. She shows up to a march that did not have a permit. It was filled and populated by violent Antifa and Black Lives Matter personnel, organized, sponsored, financed, and ready to fight. And she shows up and marches with them. And what happened? It was the perfect meeting of two stupid groups, and this white supremacist ran into these cars and she died. Has she been a part of a group that was there to support races on a different day, or to support freedom and to support the fact that we're not a racist country? We're not a country of slaves, thank goodness. And we should keep this history in place so we can remember why we are who we are. If she was there to support that and march in support of people with that, with a permit, I can guarantee you she'd still be alive. But she took it upon herself to secrete herself into this group. And what came out of it? She's dead. And so I look at these people and their decisions when they milk themselves in with these groups, and I say, perception is reality. And if you get yourself into this environment and you post things from these people, and then you go down there and you get involved with it, you are it. It's like ISIS. You don't have a tryout for ISIS. You don't get accepted into Antifa. You don't have a carrying card that says Antifa on it. If you show up and support the same thing that they believe and support, you are one of them. And it's no different on the left. If you show up and you go to protest something and the KKK shows up and you don't leave and you stand by them, you will be judged with them. There's a book. It's thousands and thousands of years old. And it says the same exact thing. It's called the Bible. You should check it out. You are judged by the people in which you keep company. And if you show up to march with these people and you end up getting killed, your legacy will be that you were, at least in my eyes, that you were one of them. And if you show up and the people that get vilified because they're the KKK are standing next to you and you get vilified, in my eyes, there's something up with that. And you're going to be vilified, and your legacy will forever, at that point, you will be connected to those people somehow, some way. So what I suggest to people, if you do love this country and you love the Constitution and you're a patriot, be very careful of who you associate with. Be very careful. If you sponsor something and these people show up, leave. Your supporters will still be there for you later. Disperse. But don't wait until those days to come up with that idea. You have to realize this stuff. You have to understand that this is the world we live in. And you have to have a plan to act. If they show up, they have a plan to act. If they show up, you should have a plan to act. Leave. Go to a church somewhere. Sit and have food or whatever and talk about how you learn stuff, and get on social media and do your own thing. That's the way it works. Folks, we have to be extremely smart in this war that's going on. We are already in a civil war. People mistake war in thinking that you have to have guns. Texas is at war. Texas is being subverted by the left faster than they even know. You have at least 3 sanctuary cities in Texas: Houston, Dallas, and Austin. Probably more that I don't even know about. And you have judges there that overturn laws saying that they can punish, that Texas can punish the mayors of those sanctuary cities. San Antonio too. Okay, so that's 4 in Texas alone. Have your guns. Have it in your mind that nobody's going to mess with Texas. Folks, Texas is getting overran faster than you can stop it. So let's see. What else was it that I was going to talk about? What is terrorism? Let me check on this dog real quick. Hold on. I don't see him. Okay. There he is. I thought he fell down. He's 17 years old. I got to watch out for this dog. Okay. What is terrorism? See, these are the things that the mainstream media are not defining for you at all. Terrorism is the use of fear and intimidation and violence for a political aim. What does that mean? It means that they have a different idea of the way your government should be ran, the way your society should function. They have a different idea than you do. And so instead of debate, instead of getting themselves into a position of leadership to see if they can modify things the legal way, they will go out and they will do things like besmirch people's reputations on social media, TV, or radio. That's fear and intimidation. They will threaten people. That's fear and intimidation. They will literally hurt people. That's using fear, intimidation, and violence. And they will kill people, as we saw in Dallas by Black Lives Matter, in Louisiana by Black Lives Matter, in Charleston, in Charlottesville, like these white supremacists, and Antifa there and Black Lives Matter there beating people up, like we saw beating people up by all means necessary, who the mayor of Berkeley belongs to, and Antifa in Berkeley burning things down, like we saw in just outside of St. Louis with the Michael Brown incident. Another time these people show up. Listen, fear, intimidation, violence for a political aim, which is completely different than what McMaster said today. McMaster, our national security advisor, you think would get this right, but he's a supporter of all these groups. He is a supporter of the Muslim Brotherhood. McMaster is a plant. He is fake. He is of the subversive kind, and he is one of these dark state individuals. I don't know how he got into the position that he's in, but he should be fired, which is another poll that I had, just like the other one, and that was almost 100% of people said he should be fired. But this was his quote. Remember, terrorism is the use of fear, intimidation, and violence for a political aim. This is what McMaster said yesterday on television. Anytime that you commit an attack against people to incite fear is terrorism. Well, if that's the case, then every time there's 2 fraternity houses that get in fight each other, that's terrorism. According to McMaster, if every road rage incident is a terrorist act, every time you I don't know, go to a Yankees game and one of the bleacher creatures throws beer and threatens to beat somebody up because they're from the opposing team, that would be, under McMaster's definition, terrorism. I don't understand how the national security advisor, the top national security advisor to the president, could be so stupid and incompetent as not to get the definition of the very thing which he exists to fight against. He doesn't even know the proper definition of that thing. Makes you wonder, folks. It makes you wonder. So that's the definition of terrorism. Any of these groups meet that definition, then they should be deemed a terrorist group. It doesn't matter, folks. It doesn't matter whether or not they have minorities on their side. It doesn't matter whether or not somebody within their group has been persecuted before. It doesn't matter. If you meet the definition of a crime, then you should be charged with that crime, and you should be punished for that crime. And I cannot, for the life of me, understand, and this is what I believe, that the Constitutional Quick Reaction Force, if all the people that are watching this right now, we got close to 300 people tonight watching. And by the time we get off this, we'll have thousands. If all these people got together and started going to Twitter, which President Trump works late at night, 2 in the morning. If you started going to your congressman and letting them know exactly how you feel about this, we could make a change. But we have to do it together. Any of these groups, and this is what you would tweet, this is what you would put out, this is what you write, this is what you say when you call. We got to do it together, folks. This is what you do. This isn't some social media LinkedIn troll that we're going after. This is a real operation where we get together and this is what we do. Let them know that you want people who use fear, and it doesn't matter if it's 1 or if it's 1,000. If they use fear, intimidation, and violence for a political aim, you want them charged with terrorism. Period. Let them know that. That's what we have to keep pushing forward. If we don't, we will never see these groups go away, and they will only get stronger. Because, folks, let me tell you something. Another thing I'm going to go on record saying here. White supremacy is bad. White supremacy is connected to Hitler that killed millions and millions of Jews. Antifa is connected to Stalin and Marx and individuals that have been communist leaders and almost founding fathers, if you will, of the communist movement, who were responsible for killing 10 times of what Hitler killed. Those people are far more dangerous than white supremacists. White supremacists, I believe, if America did what they did before and put their full force behind either legislation or just socially crushing these people, if they did that together, we could probably push the white supremacists into oblivion. But the same thing is not going to happen with Antifa, with Black Lives Matter, with BAMN, with the media, with the leftist politicians and the rhinos on the right. All these people are in cahoots, collusion, whatever you want to call it. They're working together to overthrow our Constitution and our free way of life. There's nothing in that statement that I just made that's inflammatory. It is 100% true. So I would strongly suggest, folks, before you get off this show tonight, that you start talking to people that you know. If you tell 10 people, this is what we got to do, and they tell 10 people, within a couple of weeks, we'll have millions of people. And we'll be able to go against white supremacists, communists, black separatists, white separatists, any of these people. So that's what I just said. What do you do? Somebody asked me, what do you do? Get together. 2 o'clock in the morning, start tweeting the president. We need to see these tweets constantly. If somebody else tweets and says, we want people charged with terrorism on all sides, name them. Make these people acknowledge that you're saying who these people are. separatist groups, communist groups, white supremacists, Black Lives Matter, Antifa, any of these groups that use fear, intimidation, and violence for a political aim. Make these people know. Make your senators, your congressmen, the president, your chiefs of police, your sheriffs, your mayors, your governors. Make them all realize. Tell you have enough. Folks, on this program tonight, there's more people watching this show tonight with the ability to communicate directly to these people through social media. There are more people watching this show tonight than were involved in the creation of this very country. And you're telling me that you don't know what to do. It's called Be United. It's called Stand Together. It's called Stand Against those types of people, whether they be white supremacists or anarchists or separatists or communists. Stand against them. Stand against the criminal and corrupt politicians. Stand against the media. Don't just turn your TV off. Get 20, 30 people and go down there and stand with signs like they do in front of their news stations. Look, you want to change the perception of what's going on back to reality? Stop protesting city halls and start protesting in front of news departments, in front of CNN, in front of Fox, in front of your local stations. Let them know that you're not going to put up with it anymore. But one person's not going to do it. 100 will make a tremendous difference. And I can guarantee you, if you get 100 people and you all consistently, I don't know if you know this, but when you tweet something on Twitter, and the only reason I'm talking about Twitter so much is because President Trump looks at Twitter. If you tweet something and then you retweet it, it populates it again. Well, you can untweet that, unretweet it, and then retweet it again. You can do that as many times as you want, every few minutes, and it repopulates it back up there. So utilize these things together. Don't just be a one keyboard warrior. Go at it with yourself. Monitor who the people are that you follow. And if you see them doing something, jump on it. Get 10 of your friends to jump on it. That's the only way that you're going to start to have a powerful voice. And go after the media. Look, I know one thing for sure that works. You see somebody on that television set that says something that you think is ridiculous, make a phone call, get online, get 15 or 20 of your people together, and just start hammering that person with tweet after tweet after tweet. Put their name, and don't be too nasty. Ask them questions. You don't have to call somebody an effing dumbass or anything like that. Go on there and say, are you a communist? Why would you say this and not say that? Why would you say that white supremacy is bad but not say that Antifa, the communist group, is bad? Why would you call one group that uses violence, fear, and intimidation a terrorist, but you won't call the other group that uses fear, intimidation, and violence a terrorist group for a political aim? Why? Do it. Stop sitting on the sideline. What you saw this weekend when the weather was great and you were out, what you saw was a drastic move forward for the left. You saw all sides of that family tree come to play together. You saw politicians. Well, first of all, you saw activists on the ground. You saw politicians. You saw media personnel. You saw big money donors. You don't think big money donors aren't supplying Antifa with money? Or even potentially the KKK? They're getting big money donors. All these people came together this weekend and worked as one against the American way and against your freedom. Because it starts with this, then they move a different direction later. And they start going after your freedoms, your Second Amendment, your First Amendment. These people who preach the First Amendment or be the first ones to go after your First Amendment rights. And so let me finish with this. I believe that the mainstream media and politicians are our biggest national security threat. I've said it many times. I'll say it again. Public statement again tonight. They are our biggest threat. They're bigger than Kim Jong-un. They're bigger than Antifa. They're bigger than ISIS. National security threat. The thing that can harm the security of this nation. the thing that can cause us to be weakened and open to invasion, open and weakened to subversion, open and weakened to attack. Politicians and the mainstream media and the money that flows through there, they are the biggest national security threat that we have. Remember that. Remember that we're already in a civil war. We're not going to get into a civil war. We're in a civil war. We're already in World War III. We're not going to get into World War III. We're already in it. So that's all I got. I think that's enough public statements for tonight. What do you guys have? Let me see what you're saying. And before we get off, numbers are already starting to decrease. Do this real quick. If you haven't shared this show, share it. I want to get off here. I'd like to see 140 people sharing. If you haven't retweeted it, retweet this show. Just hit the thing down there and retweet it. Get the word out. Share this particular show so people can see it. They need to know it. Before more young people like this girl go and support this communist group and get themselves killed, before more people like this strange individual that ran over her and everybody else gets affected and drawn into these white supremacist groups, get the word out so people can see what the truth is. That hate, that separatist, that subversives, communists, they all want the same thing. They want this country to be what they want, regardless of the Constitution. They want to overthrow this Constitution. They want to crush our freedoms. They want people to be separated. I don't know how many people in here call me loony tonight. I'm not saying anything loony. Based on my training and experience in this serving this country, I know what it takes to defend freedom. And I know the characteristics and behaviors of those that want to steal the freedom. Listen to what I'm saying and share it. Share this show big time. Also, tonight is, or yesterday, Jim DeLong wrote me, is the 1 year anniversary since I started my GoFundMe page. It's just shy of $30,000. Now, I want you to think about that, folks. In a year, your donations, some of it was for Rico. That got used on Rico, trust me. They did every test they could on him last week. $30,000 in a year. All this equipment that I have here was all supplied by Jim DeLong. Microphones, the computer, all these things. Let's see if we can show you this. There you go. See this? This this whole thing. This I already had. You got my external hard drives, this big computer. We got, I mean, the whole thing was supplied through donation of Jim DeLong for equipment. These microphones, all this other stuff. The money that you have sent in allowed me to go to North Carolina. It allowed me to go to Virginia Beach and Norfolk. It allowed me to go to West Virginia, to Arkansas, to Detroit, to Ohio, to West Virginia, or no, to Ohio again, and then down to D.C. All of that was made possible through your donations, because it allows me to step away from the stuff that I usually do, which would be hosting more shows on Sirius, and it allowed me to go and also doing all different kinds of security work and consulting, and it allowed me to go concentrate on meeting you and understanding the reality of what's going on in this country. Those donations, I can't tell you how important they are and how much it means to me that you all have helped out that much. We're just shy of $30,000. So here's what I ask, folks. I've talked about this before many, many times. We need people to commit to sending in, I don't know, $20 a month. But don't just do it by yourself. We need several hundred people doing that. You need to tell your friends and get them on board, especially after this weekend. This place that you've created, that you've helped me create, is a sounding board. We don't need an echo chamber. We have a sounding board. This is where you stand here. I answer my emails. By and large, I get a little overwhelmed. I answer your questions. I stand with you. Literally, I drive thousands of miles so I can stand with you. And so I ask that you continue to get involved and support this program. There may very well be a day when this program gets picked up by television or radio. Until that point, when that paycheck starts coming, you all are you're my big money donors. You're the ones that make this happen. And I hope that you take that role seriously. If it was not for you all funding this show, I would not have been here for the past year. We wouldn't have this discussion. I went on the radio last week. We had multiple callers calling in saying how they appreciate the truth, and this is the only place they get the truth is from this show. It touches me. My mom raised me that way. I don't lie. I don't go out and spread lies. I suffered and bled for this country. I wasn't Rob O'Neill. I didn't shoot bin Laden. I wasn't Chris Kyle. I wasn't the greatest sniper in the SEAL teams. I had a short career in the SEAL teams. But I've served in multiple different capacities. I didn't, bust the Gaudis and go after the biggest terrorist in New York City as an FBI agent. But I continued to serve. And what I got from that was the ability to see the big picture and to step back and look at what's going on, understanding politics, folks. I understand politics better than most people. Not only do I have a degree in political science and psychology, but I've worked for 4 different agencies. I've seen the reality of what happens when politics gets involved for no other reason but statistics and nefarious, incompetent leaders, how quickly they rise. I was meant to be here. It's not been comfortable. I'm not getting rich, trust me. Somebody said something the other day about how this guy's collecting money, while he sits on his butt. Folks, I live in Manhattan. $29,000 has assisted me in doing this. Every dollar I've made over the past year has gone into this. Upkeep on that truck, driving thousands of miles. I've driven like 15,000 miles this year. Taking care of our mascot down there, Rico. So don't forget, it's right here. It just come up on the screen right here. GoFund.me/The Experts Roadshow. Continue to fund this. If you have not funded it, go and fund it. Help me keep this going. And the more we get now, the less I have to worry about later. The less I have to talk about this. I'm not good at asking for money. That's not something I do. I always work for it. But I need you guys to help out. And peace out, whoever that was that said they had to hit the hay. God bless every single one of you. And I appreciate, even if all you can give is showing up here, I'm okay with that. God will supply what we need to supply to keep this going. We're not extremists. We're not hate-filled. We love all people. I don't see color. Anybody that knows me knows that. I don't care about gender. I care about effectiveness. I don't care who you sleep with. Can you do the job? Are you going to cause problems in the job? That's what I care about. Are you an honest person? Are you a moralistic person? Do you understand the Constitution and the right to life and to protect life? Or are you just some kind of fake news person, somebody who's a freaking some kind of a ego and fame whore? That's not what we are here. And so, again, I thank everybody for their donations. 1 year, $29,000. I say we double it this year, triple it even, and we take this thing to the next level. That's what I feel like we should do. And the other thing is they started using my freaking tagline, one team, one fight, these people up there. I don't know who started that, but you got to be careful of that too. They'll try to associate that with whatever, but we all know what my real tagline is. The truth has arrived. Let's do the Truth Zone, and we'll close up this show. All right. Well, if you didn't watch the video that I posted earlier from Newsmax earlier today, it was the same thing basically that I posted, or for this show. I just was with Bill Tucker. It was very interesting. Got to interview Jack Abramoff, who is the notorious lobbyist in Washington, D.C. Think what you might about that guy. He probably knows more about the nefarious activities of Washington, D.C. than anybody, and what he had to say was chilling. He agrees with us, by the way, about the national security threat. Everybody make sure that you go to Yelp and look up Barry Morgenstein and give him a good review. He's been attacked by trolls on there, and I don't think it's fair. People need to know the reality of who this guy is and how professional he is. Let people know that. It's on Yelp, Barry Morgenstein. We have to stand together, folks. And we have to be smart with who's standing with us. You cannot allow yourself to be drawn into this. Do not allow it. Your fight will be over before it gets started. I know team guys, SEALs, that have been overseas, and they got into a drinking incident overseas while they're deployed. And what do you think happens to those guys? They get sent back home. They never get to get in the fight. I know guys who've gone overseas and got involved in some type of altercation where they weren't even drinking, but they were dancing with somebody's girlfriend in a war zone, and they had to go home and they missed out on the fight. You cannot allow yourself to be drawn into this nonsense that happened down in Charlottesville. Don't allow yourself to be so angry that you have to go and get involved. The fight is not going anywhere. And right now, it's safer and more proper for you just to organize online. You may only, if you're a promoter, you may only get 1,000, at the most, maybe a couple hundred people that come to your protests or your support marches. Online tonight, we had almost 300. By the time this is over, we'll have thousands of people. Utilize this. You're being given this for a time, for a season, as they say in the Bible. Use it. Because I can guarantee you, folks, if the leftists get their way, social media is going to have a big change, and a big change soon. Google and YouTube have already started. We don't even have numbers. We never have had numbers on YouTube. Tonight alone, one of the biggest nights I've had on all these other platforms, only 18 people watching on YouTube. That's because they've been subverted. The people that run Google are communist, and YouTube are communist. Twitter has a big problem. Facebook has a huge problem. Unite and stand together. I pray for this country, folks. I'm Jonathan Gillum. Old Rico, my good buddy's asleep on the floor over there. I want you to pray for this country. Give to this show, and let's stand together. I'm Jonathan Gillum. I'll see you tomorrow right here on The Experts. And remember, folks, I don't care where you see me, where I'm at, what I'm doing. If I'm there, the truth has arrived.